And open up to questions.
The end of next week, I believe, is the end for the deadline for the Leads Act money. Is there an update on that?
Well, we've had a company that and I don't know if we want to get a microphone for all the questions, but we've had a company that has applied for that Lead Act funds, and so not sure if it obligates them post that or there has to be a contract. So we're still working through those details. The good news is it's a major company that feels like that they apply or they can qualify for that. And in that Lead Act, it's a 3,500 jobs that you have to be able to qualify for. And it's also billions of dollars in economic investment. And I like to explain and make sure everybody understands that the Lead Act or some of these incentives, it's like when you hire an employee. If you hire somebody to come to work for you and you promise to pay somebody $70,000 salary, you don't pay $70,000 day one. It is earned over the time, and as you earn that, then you're going to be releasing those monies. Incentives work the exact same way. It is a stockpile of money, and in this case, Oklahoma is in such a great financial situation that we have decided to pre-fund in an account, that salary basically, that if you hit these gates and you hire 3,500 employees and you invest the $5 billion, then that funds will be released out over the next 10 years. So that's kind of how our incentives work. They're always net neutral for the taxpayers, and I'm always going to make sure that we balance taxpayers being efficient with also job creation.
You said company, is that Project Ocean?
That's Project Ocean that has applied for that LEADS funds, yes.
So the new loss report was just released today, I think at 8 a.m. And it found that the Central Personal Division did not review $3 billion worth of purchases last year, and only reviewed $538 million worth of purchases last year. Is that concerning to you at all? That $3 billion, and that they signed exemptions and they never investigated whether they qualified for those exemptions or anything of that nature?
You know, I haven't seen the loft report, but I think back in March I signed an executive order to really encourage the legislature to fix all these exemptions. So in other words, I believe that every single contract should have an RFP, and it should be an open bidding process. During COVID, with the federal health emergency, and then also with our health emergency back in 2020, some of our state agencies were using those exemptions to single source or bid out. There's also state agencies that have other exemptions. ODVA is one example that has a bunch of different exemptions. So in my executive order, I said, we've got to look at this. We need to make sure that every single contract has an RFP out there. So I encourage the legislature to take away all exemptions. But the state agencies that was out there and they were doing it, but COVID's over, it's been over for a long time. We don't need to be using any of these exemptions to bypass an RFP. And then furthermore, we need to tighten up from a legislative standpoint any exemptions that are out there per state agency.
Can you give some detail on Canoe's exemption? Because didn't they get a state purchasing exemption to buy state vehicles once they get in production?
I don't think so. We wouldn't give, a private company can do whatever they want. So the state would have nothing to do with giving an exemption to a private company. If they're going to, whatever their purchasing stuff is, their purchasing stuff is. With Canoe, if you're thinking about, there was a best efforts for us to if they built a big manufacturing facility here, for us to, give them the best efforts to buy some vehicles from them. So I think that's what you're talking about. There's no obligation from the state to do that. There was a best efforts to, if you're going to be building thousands and thousands of vehicles and employing thousands of Oklahomans, then we want to use that and we want to buy some of those vehicles for our state fleet in the normal course of business as you're buying vehicles. Great news on the state fleet. I don't know if you guys have seen that, my executive order to get rid of some state vehicles. But so far we've just in the last couple months, we've reduced our state fleet by over 300 vehicles that just were not being used, just by kind of shining a light on it and saying, hey, if we don't need these vehicles, let's get rid of them and save the taxpayers money.
Switching to the national headlines, what are your thoughts on President Trump's arraignment this week?
You know, it's to me, it's very, very political. It's disappointing. no one is above the law, but I think people can see right through this. And you've got DAs in New York that refuse to prosecute or refuse to bring charges, and now you have this new DA that's bringing charges on the former president of the United States, and it just doesn't smell right. I think that, like I said last week, this is Stalin-esque type behavior, where he would say stuff like, "Show me the man, I'll show you the crime," and he would politically go after some of his opponents. These are criminal indictments against the former president of the United States, and I just think it's ridiculous.
Governor, what's the latest on sports betting? I saw that you met with Clay Bennett last week. Have you talked more about sports betting? Do you think you're getting closer to an agreement?
Clay Bennett is a great Oklahoman, and Clay Bennett is obviously the owner of the Thunder and kind of the face of the Thunder, and so he's very interested in sports betting. I think 35 other states have that. So from the very beginning, I've said, hey, if it's fair, if it's transparent, if it's market, if it's what other states are doing, then let's look at it. So again, I just had a very high-level conversation with Mr. Bennett about that. And just trying to look at what they do in New Jersey and New York and in all these other states, and let's come up with a fair system for Oklahoma, and let's make sure that we have it statewide mobile and et cetera, for the folks that like to bet on sports.
And you mentioned it being fair previously. Do you have any specific holdups when it comes to sports betting, or you just sort of your main focus is just having it being fair?
Yeah, fair, just a fair, transparent process, and make sure it's market. What I mean by market is, when you go buy a new Ford F-150, you can go to a lot of different dealerships, but there's a market. You know what you're going to pay for that. Same thing with this. If there's 40 other states that have sportsbook, this isn't rocket science. You can come up with the average. There's some states, New York charges 51% for their statewide mobile. And then there's some states that charge 10% or 15%. And then you can kind of look at that medium, and we can come up with a fair system for Oklahoma and get that across the finish line. So those are the things that we're working on behind the scenes. We want to make it fair for the Thunder, and we want to make it fair for all the stakeholders that are interested.
Following up on that, obviously the Thunder there's been talks of, David Cole said in his State of the City address that the Thunder might move if certain things don't happen. And Clay didn't express that the Thunder might move if sports betting does not get legalized. I know they're being courted by other states, and sports betting is one of the things they're kind of being courted with. Is that something he expressed to you?
No, not at all. He never said one thing about them moving, so haven't heard that at all. I think that's just, I don't know, that's rumor, or that's trying to pass something else. But no, we want to be fair. I think he wants sportsbook. There's some opportunities for advertising for the Thunder, which would be great if we can get it. But also, it's just fan engagement, I think, is also the big piece. You're competing for those eyeballs, and you're competing for people to come and fill up your stadiums, and anything you can do. If there's other teams in other markets, I'm sure he sees the opportunity and the engagement and selling out their seats, and that's what they're trying to do here and get the community rallied around. And so if sportsbooks can help it, then that's going to be his movie. He's going to be looking through, and he's going to be pushing to get that across the finish line. As we are, we're not the obstacles. We want to make sure it is. We want it to be fair for Oklahomans and a transparent process.
Your last question. Governor, why did you push for the broadband governing board to hire former Representative Mike Sanders to lead the broadband office?
Yeah, well, first off, I've got, I can't remember exactly, maybe 3 appointees. The speaker has 3, and maybe the pro tem has 3. I'm not sure if there's other appointees on that board. But I wanted to get an Oklahoman in there, and then there was a thought to hire somebody from out of state, and really felt like we needed an Oklahoma on there. So when I can put my values on boards, I take that very seriously, and I'm going to exercise that authority to make sure that we're fair across the state. We need to get those dollars out the door. We need to be fair with all the different vendors, and I think Mike Sanders is the right guy, and excited that it was a unanimous vote to approve him and set him up as the director of that agency. Thank you all.